than inferior to TDF. But again, when they look at other safety parameters, they realize that in terms of bone mineral density and in terms of renal function, that TAF was actually much, much better than TDF. Next slide. So an explanation as to why TDF had a poor side effects profile, as I mentioned before, is because there's a lot of tenofovir lingering within the plasma, as opposed to the intracellular concentration that is exactly what we need to protect ourselves against HIV. So when we have too much tenofovir in the blood system, essentially it means distributes to body organs, including the kidney and the bone, and then we end up with the undesired side effects. Now, TAF, on the other hand, easily absorbed into intracellular pocket. Essentially, it means that we have very little amount of the drug that is available in the blood. So then you expect less side effects. Right? So does size really matter? Yes, maybe no. The TAF drug is actually a very small tablet, almost half the size of the provider. It's possible that with a reduced size, there's a possibility of increased adherence, but that has not been demonstrated yet. Next slide. So what we currently know on the current status of Discovery is that it was FDA approved sometime last year. And this approval was specifically as PrEP for men who have sex with men and also transgender women. The main reason why it was focused in that particular population is because that was the subject for the clinical trials that evaluated the product. So currently there are ongoing studies with regard to can PrEP be used in women who are having sex with men, and this study has actually been funded by Gilead, and then the protocol is in writing phase, and we hope that it will be rolled out soon. Next slide. So then what are the other options? We're saying tablets don't work. We're saying we have an adherence problem with the tablet. So another tablet might run into the same issue of the trouble of having to take a tablet every day. So the next alternative is actually vaginal rings, which have made great progress. They're actually almost out in the market. Next slide. So two key studies actually inform the decision to use vaginal rings, and we have the Aspire study and the Ring study. These are concurrent studies that were happening pretty much at the same time and concluded sometime in 2016. They enrolled slightly more than 2,600 for the Aspire and about 1,900 for the Ring study. And what we really noticed was the incidence in the of HIV infection in the intervention arm of the Aspire study was actually reduced by 27%. That means the product had a 27% protective efficacy. Now, we might say that is a very low figure, but again, this low number was driven by a couple of factors. When they knocked out two sites that they felt had adherence concerns or had implementation issues, the protective efficacy went up to 37%. Again, we can argue that is still a small number because we accept most interventions with a protective efficacy of about 50%. We also notice that the protective efficacy also varied by age and adherence level, and the younger people seem to have not used the ring, and we're seeing lower efficacy levels, and people who, of course, had poor adherence were also noting the same. However, for the ring study, it showed an efficacy level of 31%. Now, this data has since changed. When they did a more recent evaluation trying to monitor drug levels that was left within the ring, they noted that if they adjust for adherence accurately, then the protective efficacy goes up to somewhere between 55 and 60%, in which case then it makes the product an acceptable option. Okay. So what does this ring contain? It contains what we're calling adaptiverin. Adaptiverin is an NNRTI. It essentially is the white substance that is contained within the ring that you're seeing. It slowly elutes when the ring is inserted around the cervix. And the main idea behind it is to ensure that the cells within the vagina are actually dense with regard to the concentration of antiretrovirals. That is deemed to be the reason why they protect against HIV. So essentially what do we know? We know that both oral PrEP and dapivirine are safe. We know that they are both effective if you use them consistently and if you use them well. We know that we have concerns with the young population, especially the young women. We know that PrEP is approved by FDA, and dapivirine has come very close. It got a favorable opinion in June of this year, 2020, by EMEA, and we hope that the next level will be to get an approval by FDA, and I guess after that we should have the product rolling out in developing countries. So to address the issue of, next slide, to address the issue of poor adherence, especially with the young women, there's an ongoing study which is MTN 034. The objective of this ongoing study is to compare the safety and the adherence of the vaginal ring when you compare to an oral PrEP in adolescent girls who are aged between 16 and 21. This study was scheduled to be done in Kenya, but we were excluded from that particular process, and it's actually ongoing in other African countries. Next slide. So the study is actually ongoing in Uganda, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. And there are 2 trial sites in South Africa indicated by the dot. The 5th dot is actually Kenya, which was eventually excluded. Next slide. So essentially, the study design is very unique, and the content of this is every woman gets to experience either the ring inserted into the vagina or the oral tablet. So initially, they are split into 2 groups where you use the ring or the tablet. And then after 6 months of ring or tablet use, you switch. That means if you use the ring, then you use the tablet. If you use the tablet, then you switch to a ring. And then the last six months, you get an option to choose whatever intervention that you prefer. Next slide. So as indicated, the product has cleared EMEA, and they're actually sort of trying to see if they can get all the evidence submitted to FDA, and hopefully we can approve it. So next slide. So it's a modified version of that particular ring, and we're calling it a multi-purpose technology ring. And the reason why we're calling it a multi-purpose technology ring, next slide, is because it has the possibility of combining 2 interventions. And these 2 interventions, essentially, they protect you from either multiple STIs, more than 1 STI, or pretty much a couple of STIs and maybe unwanted pregnancy. So 2 key products are in the pipeline with regard to the MPT. And the tenofovir, which has been shown to be effective against both HIV-1 and HSV-2, to provide the dual coverage, and a ring that contains tenofovir and levonorgestrel combined, whereby the tenofovir again functions the dual coverage for HIV-1 and HSV-2, while the levonorgestrel, which is a contraceptive, serves the preventing pregnancy. Next slide. So what you're seeing there being held is the actual dual MPT, and the white thick substance is the tenofovir, the clear transparent liquid is the levonorgestrel. We all know about tenofovir being used for PrEP, the key ingredient in oral PrEP, and the tenofovir gel has been previously shown intravaginally to be active and protecting someone against HIV. Now, the levonorgestrel, we know that we use it in our morning after pill, so it has been shown to be effective post-coital. However, in other studies, it has also been shown that if you use it pre-coital, it's also as effective as being used post-coital. So in this case, then we are proposing to use pre-coital. Okay. So this was a study that was ongoing and has just concluded, and we're evaluating the safety, adherence, and acceptability of a multi-purpose technology ring. And we enroll individuals within Kisumu for a period of year of about 3 months actually. And the main objective was really to determine the systemic safety and the genital effects. This was a very early phase 2A clinical trial. And the results are still being analyzed. Next slide. So what you really answered to that particular study is clinical and pharmacological safety of the product, and also acceptability of intravaginal ring within our population. We know that it's a foreign concept. There are other interventions that are being used in developing countries that are administered in the form of an intravaginal ring. It's not very common in developing countries to see intravaginal ring products. And this data will actually inform a phase 2 with the same product, and hopefully if successful, then we will see products being rolled in the near future. Next slide. So a quick preview of what the results actually show. It shows that The rings were shown to be very effective, and these results will be shared in detail in an upcoming scientific meeting. And also we note that the pharmacokinetic characteristics and the biomarkers for HIV prevention were actually suggestive of an efficacious product. So this should be a suitable candidate for a phase 2 study. Then quickly move on to next slide. Quickly move on to, can we try injectables? Can we try different formulations? We know that the tablets have issues. The rings might run into issues, or maybe they're not available around the corner. So will injectables be an option? Next slide. So there are 2 key studies that are ongoing. One has just concluded, HPTN 083 and HPN 084. These studies are very, very similar because they're both looking at the efficacy and safety of cabotegravir injection, which is an antiretroviral, when compared to the oral Truvada tablet. The secondary objective of looking at the PK and pharmacodynamics of the thing. So the 083 essentially looking at the effectiveness of the product in men who have sex with men and also the transgender women, mainly in the Americas. And HPTN 084 looks at the efficacy in women in sub-Saharan Africa. Next slide. So we know that cabotegravir is an instinct. We know that instincts are pretty much the ideal drug to use because they have high genetic burden resistance. They are taken in very, very low doses. They have a very, very long shelf life and especially
switch off your
very
Bluetooth.
effective. Maybe someone needs to mute. So they become an ideal candidate for a long-acting PrEP injection. Next slide. So what the study really tries to look at is the study design. Essentially, each participant who gets into the study gets a cabotegravir injection or a placebo Truvada, or the reverse, where they get an active Truvada and a placebo injection for a period of about I don't think to know the duration here. So it's actually a study that runs about 3 years. And the concern for this particular study is just to make sure that there is no immediate reaction to cabotegravir. That is why you're initially introduced to the injection form in terms of a tablet that the monitor for any adverse event before they switch you on to the injectable, because once you get the injection, the effects are pretty much reversible. Next slide. So then here we're seeing the results of this particular study, and these are results that actually came out this year. It was announced in the virtual AIDS 2020. And in the blue box, you're looking at HIV. In the left, the HIV incidence. In the blue box, you're looking at incidence of infection in the Truvada tablet. And in the yellow box, you're looking at incidence of infection in the cabotegravir injectable. The injectable is normally given every 8 weeks. So we seem to have an incidence rate per 100 person years about 1.22 in the Truvada compared to a 0.41. And we are seeing the confidence intervals do not actually interlap, meaning there's a really significant difference between these two. When you plot that confidence interval if you plot that hazard ratio and sort of trying to determine inferiority or superiority, we see that it's very much towards 0, meaning that it favors cabotegravir as an injection compared to Truvada. So initially, this study also was designed as an inferiority, but this evidence was so overwhelming that they concluded that cabotegravir injection was actually superior to the Truvada tablet. So what is the next step with regard to this? The next step really is to figure out how we can get cabotegravir injection rolled out to the general population, and the discussions are underway with regard to how access can be initiated in low and middle income countries. But again, before we get that, we have to make sure that the product is actually submitted for approval with FDA and the mayor and other regulatory authorities. And there is still need also to confirm the effectiveness of this particular product in women who are having sex with men within the sub-Saharan African countries. Next slide. And this study is actually ongoing, and Kenya is participating in this. Next slide. So HPTN 084 is conducted mainly within the sub-Saharan African population. They're targeting women aged 18 to 44 years, HIV uninfected, who are pretty much at risk of acquiring HIV infection. 3,200 women have been enrolled across sub-Saharan Africa, 65 of them from Kisumu, and they're in advanced stages of follow-up. We expect this product to show overwhelming evidence like the sister study, and this will essentially just support the submission for approval for the study. Next slide. So these are the 20 sites that the HPTN 054 is being evaluated. Next. So there are still other options that are out there with regard to HIV prevention, and these are further down the pipeline, and we are looking at the possibility of the long-acting implant. And there are a couple of candidates for this. It's Latravel, which is essentially an early phase clinical trial. Cabotegravir that has been shown to be effective when used as an injection. Then there's a possibility of it being converted to a long-acting implant. But again, it's still in early phase of the study. And TAF, the molecule that we've actually just discussed, whereby we are saying it's actually safer than the TDF, it's also being considered for long-acting implants. I think this is the second last slide. And I can't talk about HIV prevention without talking about vaccines. And everyone is waiting for a vaccine to come out. So there has been some progress made, but there's nothing really promising with regard to the vaccine. The two leading studies with regard to the vaccine is the Mungoma study, which is actually being done in South Africa. It's still a phase 2B. I mean, we still have a long way to go with this product. And we are talking about the proof of concept study. There's currently around about 2,600 women, mainly in Sub-Saharan Africa. And they're saying the mosaic vaccine in that it combines different viral clades and viral subtypes just to ensure that it elicits a large enough and varied immune response to HIV. The Mosaico study is a sister to Mungoma study. So the Mosaico study is actually done in North America and South America, mainly pretty much Europe. The clades that are circulating in those particular regions compared to Sub-Saharan Africa are actually very different. So as much as the Mosaico study, whereby they're employing the same concept, but it's mainly tailored towards the prevalent clades in those particular regions. So this study is actually also enrolling cisgender men and transgender individuals because those are the ones who are perceived to be at high risk in that particular environment. And the vaccine is given at 4 times. So both studies are still ongoing, and we're not so sure what the outcome will be, but we will get to know in the near future. So this is my last slide. We all talk about toolbox of implementing HIV intervention. And we know that there are a good number of tools that are already in the toolbox, but we also know that individuals cannot exactly fit with one particular method. People have been asking for options, and we cannot get an end to the number of options that we can provide. So as much as we're talking about condoms, vaccines, prior microbials, vaginal products, and everything else, research is still ongoing to ensure that our toolbox is actually full and that we are passing on the message. As pharmacists, I think it's important for us to know what is coming. We know that our patients who are living with HIV, they're always ahead. They're reading what is coming in next. They will come and ask you, what about this product? Is it available? We know that there are products that have been registered or about to be registered that maybe we don't have within the country, but it's important for us to have answers to. So I'll thank all those people on that last slide. Next slide. I will thank all those people on that last slide, and maybe I'll answer the questions in this slide because slightly gone beyond the time allocated.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Very insightful, very ambitious, and innovations you're talking about there. I think we've just been having a discussion in the room and thinking long-acting implants would be good, and the vaccines that you just talked about. Thank you so much for that. So now we'll quickly move into the sponsor talk by Insupply Health by Laura Nabwire, the Kenya practice lead for Insupply Health. They're going to talk about how transforming lives by creating innovative and sustainable solutions for healthy communities. Welcome, Laura. You can unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mwai. Will you be sharing slides or shall I?
We'll share the slides for you and you can just direct us when you want to move on. Thanks.
Thank you. Next slide, kindly. All right, so understanding that there's someone at the end of the supply chain, Insupply Health seeks to transform lives by co-creating innovative and sustainable solutions for healthy communities. So who is Insupply? Next slide, kindly. So Insupply is an affiliate of the JSI Research and Training Institute, We're an independent supply chain advisory firm based in East Africa. We're headquartered here in Nairobi. We do have an office in Dar es Salaam. And we're an advisory firm that provides clients with customized guidance on supply chain management and design. Next slide, please. Eva? Thank you. All right, so the previous one, kindly.
Sorry, my network is lagging. So
All right.
Yeah,
No
so just, I'll go back, but on my screen, it shows that it has gone back, but yours, yeah, thanks.
Yes, now I can see the slide with Insupply's areas of work. And this is just a glimpse into who we are and what we do at Insupply Health. We're starting with, at the bottom, the human-centered design, a HCD approach, where we put users at the core. So it's user-generated solutions, which promote sustainability and ownership by the users. We do have the C-Stock approach, which is available as an app on Google Play. We're using in some of our arid and semi-arid regions in Kenya. We have the impact team approach. We successfully worked with quite a number of us in this symposium for the DMPASC introduction. And we have a fun and innovative way of learning, which is Health Games Kenya. Next slide, please. Other areas that we work around data use and analytics, we've talked about the C-Stock and impact team approach. We have the data integration and unpiloted aerial vehicles, which we use in Tanzania especially. We do consulting where we can do forecasting, quantification, FNQ, monitoring, learning and evaluation. And we also build capacity. The new product introduction I already mentioned was the DMPASC, which we did in conjunction with our parent company, JSI. Next slide, please. All right, so let's go a bit into the human-centered design, where we are putting, it's a methodology that puts the user at the core to create solutions. So whatever supply chain strengthening solutions that we're coming up with, especially in the hard-to-reach communities, we went and immersed ourselves in that community to find out what solutions then can we come up with. We designed the data for better use by the teams for ownership and sustainability. And also using human-centered design, which is at the core of what we do at Insupply, we're able to identify what motivates county and sub-county team members, some of whom are actually in this forum and are leading teams in the regions we're working in to take actions to improve performance. We've also designed gaming content for youth learning, which I'm going to go into next. Next slide, please. So we're happy to host the HCD exchange at Insupply. So this one is creating a nexus between human-centered design and adolescent sexual and reproductive health. So it was quite interesting to listen to Dr. Mudhune's presentation on HIV prevention interventions, what's in the pipeline. And I had him mention the youth or the young women may not be taking this up. There's a webinar that we already have on using HCD in HIV prevention, care and treatment for adolescents and young people. And seeing as we would also like to target them, that would be something interesting that's available on the links that we've posted here. I've seen Dr. Mwai saying that we have these presentations on YouTube, so we'll be able to get the links, or you could even contact me for that. The HCD is hosted at Insupply and is sponsored by this organization, the Gates Foundation, and SIF, and as well as the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Next slide, please. Dr. Mwai? Oh, great, I'm now there. So whoever thought that learning can be fun? So gaming for Health Games Kenya is a user-friendly way that we have developed to approach digital empowerment and health literacy, and let's see if we can influence in future decision-making. There are times when we do trainings and we manage teams in the office and in the field, but how effective is this training that we do? So with gaming, we're able to actually measure the content of our learning programs, and we own it. We have a repository for the content. We're able to measure how effective then our trainings are. And this is one of the ways that we're doing it. So it motivates a fun, habit-forming kind of getting our users engaged. And in these times of COVID, where we're not doing as many face-to-face meetings, this is a way to actually keep up with what our teams are doing in the field and even in office. So if we'd like to get a demo of this, please do contact us, because we're going to have that. The top 3 games that we've done so far are sexual and reproductive health, healthy lifestyles for non-communicable diseases awareness, and even healthy supply chains. Next slide, please. All right. So the Access Collaborative aims to strengthen DMP introduction, which then offers women more choice. So this is a new product introduction in the country to offer a range of contraceptives through Access Collaborative. With this one, we have worked with some of us right here in this symposium, and we're happy to say that the curriculum on the family planning training for pharmacists and pharmaceutical technologies is available, and also for community-based distribution and family planning. Again, as mentioned earlier and in the introduction to this symposium, our health-seeking behavior is gravitating towards pharmacy. And with the family planning available at pharmacy level and a curriculum available for that, then the self-care journey that was mentioned earlier gives better choice and better outcomes for women who choose to use these contraceptives. We have developed the IEC materials, and these are some of the milestones that we've done with Access Collaborative. And also we have integrated DMPAC into our reporting tools. Again, working with some of us here on focusing on quantification and revising the FCDRR for reporting at county and sub-county level. We have done the dissemination of the national plan, and we've sensitized the national and county stakeholders, and also we've done training at national level, and then the training of trainers at county level, all the way to the healthcare providers. Next slide, please. Now, in line with this year's symposium theme, we are happy to have put forward an abstract based on the work that we've done, okay, in partnership with the Ministry of Health and both county and sub-county level. So one of our colleagues, Dr. Kathare and Dr. Mungai, a county pharmacist from Samburu, is going to be presenting this abstract tomorrow. Join us and find out more about increasing access to community health commodities in nomadic communities using C-stock in Kenya. Next slide, please. So what exactly then is C-stock? So when we say C-stock is actually about making life-saving health commodities available in Kenya, it's about data for decision making. It's an approach that uses 3 components: mobile technology, user-friendly dashboards, and impact teams. It is used at the community health volunteer CHV level, and which builds up level after level, which goes all the way to sub-county and county level. At that level, decisions are made, actions are put forward that are completed with the impact team approach, which is a data use approach that ensures that we have different professionals around the table making decisions to ensure commodity availability. Next slide, please. So Insupply is also very happy to have had our second abstract accepted for presentation in this symposium. And this will be led by Dr. Faith Ndeto, sub-county pharmacist here in Nairobi, and Dr. Johnson Anyona from Insupply Health. Here, we'll be looking at strengthening health supply chain performance by enhancing a data use culture for decision-making to foster local solutions and continuous improvement. Local solutions, user-centered, that we can also have. At the beginning, one of the presenters said realistic solutions. So local solutions then are those that can be carried out to the end. So then what are impact teams? Next slide, please. All right. So for some of us who've worked in other industries, we have a process called the S&OP, Sales and Operation Planning, coming out with one set of numbers across functions. Well, the impact team mimics this because we've adapted it then for our setup in Kenya. This is Insupply's signature approach of using supply chain data with multidisciplinary teams. It works on problem solving and planning, improving data quality to ensure decision making. One thing that we've done at Insupply is actually develop personas, as we can see here on the screen, who will sit together on regular basis at sub-county level monthly, at county level quarterly, to review the data, innovate it to find solutions, and keep collaborating. So whatever actions that come together, it becomes a continuous cycle. We analyze the performance each month and we do a root cause analysis. So with the data that we get, so if we start at CHV level, it comes up for an impact team at facility level with the in-charges and community health assistants. It goes up to sub-county, all the way to county for decision making. Next slide. Hello, Dr. Mwai.
Sorry, having an internet log.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Great. So this is just to encourage all of us to join us for the Insupply abstract sessions. Very good learnings from our ASAL communities, arid, semi-arid land regions where we've implemented these approaches that we have, and what we are doing both in Nairobi and countrywide in select communities. These are the dates, these are the times, we have the agendas. Please join us. Next slide, please. Okay, so as Dr. Mwai switches, it's just a slide showing the partners that we are working with today in Kenya and in Tanzania and globally, which is something that we are able to adapt for all of us. We are available, reach out to us, reach out to me, my contact is available, and we are happy to have further discussions, demos on gaming and the HCD approach. Next slide, please. With that, I thank you all, and I hope we all continue to have a good day and a good rest of the conference. Thank you, Dr. Mwai.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nabwire. Appreciate your patience with us, and very, very informative slide and topic where you're telling us what you're doing in innovative ways and in using, actually, as you said, some of the members attending our conference who are pharmacists. Thank you so much. So now we move into the break. I know we cannot have an internet call for very long. So we'll give you a 10-minute break to go and grab your cup of coffee, cup of tea, and let's meet back here for a panel discussion. I just want to encourage all of you to write your questions in the Q&A. The only question on the Q&A tab was for Mr. Spencer. I don't know if he's still in the call. From Tom Sindani. I don't know if Mr. Spencer, you're still on the call. Okay, so we'll send this question to him and hope to get back the answer. Please ask your questions in the Q&A tab and not on the chat so that everyone can be able to see. Thank you. That was the only question on the Q&A tab. Thank you very much. So we'll go on a 10-minute break. Let's meet back here at 11:50, at 11:50 for the start of our panel discussion. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
We didn't get this thing yet. One I look at what happened. Ayoko. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that we're relevant. So are we going to talk about the role of the pharmacists in the community, the primary care? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but then essentially the type
Good morning. I hope we are now back. Can someone confirm you can hear me? Good morning. Perfect, perfect. So now we go into our panel discussions. Our panels have been specifically picked according to our sub-themes, and today's panel is going to be moderated by Dr. Mike Mungoma. Dr. Mike Mungoma is the Dean, School of Pharmacy, MKU, member of PSK NEC, and member of PSK COVID-19 Response Task Force. He has an MSc in Toxicology by the National University of Ireland, and he holds a Bachelor of Pharmacy, Punjab University. Welcome, Dr. Mungoma, to introduce your panel.
Yep, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Eva, for introducing me. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you clearly, Mike.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll move to the next slide. Dr. Mike, over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Eva. Welcome everybody to our first ever online or virtual conference organized by the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. We are so thankful for everybody or all the participants who have made time to come. And thank you for that introduction. I want to go straight to introducing our distinguished panelists. Our first one is Honorable Fellow Professor Francis Ndemo. Professor Ndemo is an Associate Professor of Clinical Pharmacy. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Pharmacy from Leicester School of Pharmacy, De Montfort University, UK, a Doctor of Pharmacy degree, and a postdoctoral fellowship in clinical pharmacokinetics from the University of Minnesota, America. He has held a number of academic positions, including lecturer, senior lecturer, and associate professor at the University of Nairobi, associate professor at Creighton and Hampton Universities in the US. He has also held a number of administrative positions, including Chair, Department of Pharmacy Practice, Hampton University, President of Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, Chair of Self-Studies Team for Accreditation of Doctor of Pharmacy and Curriculum Committee at Hampton University. He is currently the Chair of Training and Assessment Technical Committee, Pharmacy and Poisons Board. He's a recipient of many awards, including Technical Aids Award to study BSc in Pharmacy degree, Fulbright Fellowship to study a PharmD degree. 1988, he got the American Society of Health System Pharmacists Research Award. In 2015, an Excellence Academic Faculty Award, and in 2013, Internal Preceptor Award of Hampton University School of Pharmacy, and Fellowship of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. Good morning, Professor, and welcome.
All right, thank you.
Our next distinguished panelist is Dr. Sylvia Opanga. She's a member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, Hospital Pharmacists Association of Kenya, Clinical Pharmacists Association of Kenya, Kenya Society for Basic and Applied Pharmacology, International Society of Pharmacoepidemiology, and an associate member of the Surgical Society of Kenya. She is a senior lecturer of clinical pharmacy at the University of Nairobi, where she has supervised numerous master's students and several PhD students. Dr. Opanga has a PhD in clinical pharmacy from the University of Nairobi. Welcome, Dr. Sylvia Opanga.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mungoma.
And our third distinguished panelist is Dr. Joseph Kathare. He is an MTM service provider. His board is a board certified MTM specialist by the National Board of Medication Therapy Management, USA. He has a Master of Science in Pharmacology and Toxicology from the University of Nairobi and postgraduate MTM certificate from the US, as well as a Bachelor's of Pharmacy. He's an MTM trainer and coach and also a founder of MTM. MTMKenya.com, MTMSouthAfrica.com, MTMForAfrica.com. Dr. Kathare is passionate about advocacy, pharmacy service practice models in Africa, and the first and only board certified MTM specialist in Africa. Welcome, Dr. Joseph Kathare. Now I'll move on very swiftly, just to remind ourselves again, we had a very good morning with the CS, Dr. Mann, speaking to us and reminding us about who we are. Remember, the theme is pharmacy delivering primary healthcare, responding to emerging healthcare dynamics. So again, just to remind ourselves about primary healthcare. Healthcare services, the most basic package of healthcare services targeted at individual or community level that involves prevention of disease, health promotion, and management of illnesses. Medications, as we know, medicines, are the most widely used interventions in healthcare. But importantly, medication errors are the third leading cause of death. So medication-related errors occur frequently in hospitals. Not all result in actual harm, but those that do are costly. Almost 2% of admissions experienced a preventable adverse drug event resulting in average increased hospital costs. So again, just to remind ourselves that errors are something that we live with. An error is defined as a failure of a planned action to be completed as intended, or the use of a wrong plan to achieve an aim. An adverse event, an injury caused by medical management rather than the underlying condition of the patient. I am going to start with Professor Ndemo, just to bring us to speed where the pharmacist comes in, playing a very important role in medication therapy management, vis-a-vis what we just pointed out there. Professor Ndemo?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mungoma. Sorry, I'm not as articulately dressed like Dr. Mungoma. I'm wearing our usual PSK t-shirt. But anyway, actually, the background that Dr. Mungoma has said is very important. I think as a profession, we have failed to grasp the philosophy of practice. Again, without necessarily giving a whole lecture, we consider ourselves as professionals, the pharmacists, and by definition, professions are actually born out of need, and to profess is to avow. In other words, we stand for. We've been trained to make decisions on behalf of patients. And for different professions, they represent different interests. The medical professions, they actually are there to diagnose the medical conditions so that they can come up with an appropriate therapy. But when it comes to pharmacists, the question is, what is it that we as pharmacists stand for? And that is why you see, lawyers represent their clients in court. What are our social contracts? What there is, it has been found, in as much as we have lots of agents in the market, there are more than 10,000 active drugs or active ingredients in the market and more than 100,000 products, all of which have lots of issues. The thinking in the part of pharmacy was, especially after it was realized, there's a very significant drug-related morbidity and mortality related to drugs. As Dr. Mungoma said, it's been found is a third leading cause of death. So in other words, the interventionists, prescribers, including pharmacists, actually kill patients. That may sound very scary. In other words, had you not given these drugs to this patient, they wouldn't have died. So the question is, whose responsibility is it? Is it the prescriber or is it the pharmacist? The question is, the reason why we are there as a profession, there is, in French, the reason deter. In other words, what is it? Why are we there as a profession? We're there because of the drug. If you remove the drug, there's no pharmacist. But then we should rise up and take responsibility on the drug therapy outcomes. By law, we don't. Usually it's just a prescriber. So what there is that pharmacists as a profession came up with the concept of pharmaceutical care. By definition, and I'm going to make it very short, is defined as a patient-centered practice in which the practitioner takes responsibility in meeting the patient's drug-related needs and is held accountable for that commitment. The take-home message here is the fact that there are certain drug-related needs that must be met before you get the desirable outcome. And the outcomes are very clear in my mind. Number one, the drug has to be safe, the drug therapy, rather the drug regimen. Number two, it must be effective. Number three, it must be cost efficient. So as a profession, we're responsible for those three. But the question is, do we really, when you receive a prescription, do you really care to find out where the drug was indicated or whether that regimen is effective or was it safe or is the patient willing and able to comply? Oftentimes, we focus on the fourth drug-related needs, that is compliance, where the drug is available and if the patient is going to follow. But the principle is, if you're a pharmaceutical care practitioner, you don't want a patient to comply to something that is inappropriate. So in other words, as a profession, we've been doing a third of what we are required to do in order to ensure that the drug is both effective and safe. So what are we saying? We're saying we should rise up with this significant drug-related morbidity and mortality. It's pretty high. In fact, if you